It was a quiet evening in the neighborhood. The sun was slowly going down, and the sky was painted in soft orange and pink colors. Children were riding their bikes in the street. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Felt like any normal day. Marcus Hill stood in front of his new house, holding a small toolbox. Sweat ran down his face as he worked on changing the front door lock. He had just moved in 2 weeks ago, and there were still many small things to fix. He wanted everything to be perfect before his daughter Ava came to live with him full-time. He looked around at the peaceful street and smiled. For years, he had worked long hours to save enough money to buy this house. It was not a big house, but it was his. It meant safety. It meant a fresh start. Across the street, Linda Harper stood behind her living room curtain. She had lived in the neighborhood for more than 20 years. She knew almost every family on the block. She knew their cars, their jobs, even their daily routines. But she did not know Marcus. She watched him closely. She saw him working at the door. She noticed he was using tools. Her heart began to beat faster. "Why is he changing the lock?" she whispered to herself. Instead of walking outside and asking him politely, she stepped back from the window. Her mind filled with fear. She picked up her phone with shaking hands. "Hello," she said when the operator answered. "I think someone is trying to break into the house across the street." Her voice sounded serious. She truly believed she was doing the right thing. Within minutes, the sound of sirens broke the quiet evening. Red and blue lights flashed brightly, lighting up the houses and trees. The children stopped riding their bikes. Neighbors opened their doors and stepped outside to see what was happening. Marcus froze. 2 police cars stopped directly in front of his house. His heart dropped. He slowly put down his toolbox and raised his hands slightly, confused and worried. "What is going on?" he thought. He had done nothing wrong. He was only fixing his own door. Officer Daniel Reed stepped out of the first police car. He looked serious but calm. His partner followed behind him. They walked toward Marcus carefully. "Sir," Officer Reed said in a firm voice, "can you step away from the door?" Marcus did as he was told. His hands were shaking now. "I live here," Marcus said quietly. "I just moved in." Some neighbors began recording with their phones. They whispered to each other. "Is he breaking in? I have never seen him before." Marcus felt their eyes on him. He felt small and embarrassed. Officer Reed looked at him closely. He did not see fear in Marcus's eyes. He saw confusion. "Do you have any ID?" the officer asked. Marcus nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." He slowly reached into his back pocket and took out his wallet. He showed his driver's license. Then he walked carefully inside the house and brought back a folder with his house papers. Officer Reed checked the address on the ID. It matched the house number. The officer's face changed slightly. "Wait," Officer Reed said slowly, looking at Marcus more carefully. "Do you work at City General Hospital?" Marcus blinked in surprise. "Yes, I do. I am a nurse there." Officer Reed's eyes widened. "You stayed with my mother last year," he said softly. "She was very sick. You worked the night shift. You did not leave her side." Marcus remembered. He remembered the older woman who was afraid and in pain. He had held her hand and comforted her through the night. "Yes," Marcus said gently. "I remember her." The street fell silent. Linda stood frozen on her porch. The man she thought was breaking into a house was the same man who had helped save someone's life. Officer Reed turned toward the crowd. "This man lives here," he said clearly. "There is no crime." The tension slowly disappeared, but the feeling in the air remained heavy. Marcus lowered his hands. He looked across the street at Linda. Their eyes met for a brief moment. She looked away. The flashing lights turned off. The police officers returned to their cars. The children slowly began riding their bikes again. But something had changed. The quiet street did not feel the same anymore. And for Marcus, this was not just about one phone call. It was about something deeper. Something that would not be forgotten easily. That evening, as the sun finally disappeared, the neighborhood understood one thing. Sometimes, a single call can reveal more than anyone expected. And this was only the beginning of a truth that would soon shock everyone. The night after the police left, Marcus sat alone in his living room. The house was quiet, but his mind was not. He kept thinking about the flashing lights, the whispers, the looks from the neighbors. He had worked so hard for this house. For years, he saved every extra dollar. He skipped vacations. He worked double shifts at the hospital. Sometimes he felt so tired that his feet hurt for days. But he never gave up. This house was not just walls and a roof. It was a promise. Promise to his little daughter, Ava. Ava was 8 years old. She loved drawing pictures of flowers and rainbows. She loved reading stories before bed. Most of all, she loved her father. After Marcus and Ava's mother separated, life became harder. Marcus had to balance work and fatherhood. There were nights when he came home very late, but he still sat beside Ava's bed and listened to her talk about school. When he found this house, he felt hope again. It had a small backyard where Ava could play. There was a big tree in the corner, perfect for a swing. The neighborhood looked peaceful, safe. He believed this would be the perfect place to start fresh. But now doubt entered his heart. Will they accept us? He thought quietly. Across the street, Linda also could not sleep. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her cold cup of tea. She had not expected things to turn out that way. When she called the police, she truly believed she was protecting her neighborhood. She had seen news stories about break-ins. She had heard warnings on television. And when she saw a man she did not recognize changing a lock, her mind made a quick decision. But now she felt uncomfortable. The officer's words repeated in her mind. He saved my mother's life. Linda thought about that. She imagined someone staying all night to help her if she was sick. She imagined a stranger showing kindness in her worst moment. For the first time, she wondered if she had made a mistake. The next morning, Marcus woke up early as usual. He wore his clean blue hospital uniform. He looked at himself in the mirror. His eyes looked tired, but he straightened his shoulders. He had faced harder days before. When he stepped outside, he felt eyes on him again. Some neighbors avoided looking at him. Others stared for a few seconds too long. He walked calmly to his car. He reminded himself of something his father once told him. Your character is stronger than people's opinions. At the hospital, Marcus focused on his patients. An elderly man needed help sitting up. A young woman was scared about her surgery. Marcus listened to them. He spoke softly. He did his job with care. That was who he was. Later that afternoon, Ava arrived at the new house for the first time. She ran into the living room with excitement. "Daddy, this place is big," she said with a bright smile. Marcus laughed for the first time in 2 days. He showed her the backyard. She saw the tree and clapped her hands. "Can we put a swing there?" "Yes," Marcus said. "We will." While they were outside, Linda watched again from her window. This time she saw something different. She saw a father pushing his daughter gently on a small chair they had placed under the tree. She heard Ava's laughter. It did not sound like danger. It sounded like joy. Linda felt something heavy in her chest. She began to understand that sometimes fear can hide the truth. That evening, Marcus helped Ava unpack her books and toys. They ordered pizza and sat on the floor, laughing as they ate. For a moment, everything felt normal again. But Marcus knew something important. A house does not become a home only with furniture. It becomes a home when there is trust. And trust in this neighborhood would take time. As the sun went down again, Marcus looked out the window. He saw Linda standing on her porch. For a few seconds, their eyes met. This time, he did not look away. He simply gave a small, polite nod. Linda hesitated. Then slowly, she nodded back. It was not an apology. It was not friendship. But it was the first small step. And sometimes, the smallest steps lead to the biggest changes. The new beginning Marcus hoped for would not be easy. But he was ready. Because this time, he was not just building a house. He was building understanding. And that story was only starting. The night after the second police visit felt different. The air was quiet, but it was not heavy anymore. Something had shifted in the neighborhood. Not loudly, Not suddenly, but slowly, like ice melting under warm sunlight. Linda sat at her kitchen table again. The same place where she once held her phone with fear. The same place where she felt sure she was doing the right thing. But tonight she felt something else. She felt clarity. For the first time, she admitted the truth to herself. She had not called the police because she saw a crime. She had called because she saw someone unfamiliar, someone different, and her mind filled the empty space with fear. That realization was painful. Across the street, Marcus was helping Ava with her homework. She was learning about community in school. "What does community mean, Daddy?" Ava asked. Marcus smiled softly. "It means people living together and helping each other," he said. Ava thought for a moment. "Like when you helped the boy who fell off his bike?" "Yes," Marcus said gently. "And like when the police helped Ms. Linda?" Marcus paused. "Yes," he said again. Ava looked satisfied. To her, the world was simple. Adults made it complicated. The next morning, Linda woke up early. She stood by her window watching Marcus leave for work. He looked calm as always, but now she saw more than a stranger. She saw a father. She saw a nurse. She saw a man who helped others without asking questions. For days, she had felt something growing inside her. It was not guilt alone. It was responsibility. Later that afternoon, she did something unexpected. She walked to her kitchen and began baking cookies. It was something she had done for years when welcoming new neighbors. But she had never done it for Marcus. When the cookies were ready, she placed them carefully on a small plate. Her hands were slightly shaking, not from fear this time, from humility. She walked across the street slowly. Each step felt important. Marcus was outside, fixing the swing rope. Ava was sitting on the grass drawing. When Marcus noticed Linda walking toward them, he stood up straight. There was silence for a moment. Linda cleared her throat. "I brought these for you," she said softly, holding out the plate. Marcus looked at the cookies, then at her. "You didn't have to," he said kindly. "I know," Linda replied, "but I wanted to." She hesitated. Then she added the words she had been holding inside for days. "I judged you without knowing you. I let fear speak for me. I am sorry." The neighborhood seemed to pause again. But this time it was not waiting for tension. It was waiting for healing. Marcus looked at her carefully. He saw honesty in her eyes. He did not see pride. He did not see excuses. He saw someone trying to grow. "We all make mistakes," Marcus said gently. "What matters is what we learn after." Ava stood up and smiled brightly. "Do you want to see my drawings?" she asked Linda happily. Linda's face softened. "Yes," she said quietly. As Ava showed her colorful pictures, something beautiful happened. The wall between two houses began to disappear. Other neighbors watched from a distance. Some stepped outside. Mr. Thompson waved again. Carol walked over slowly. Conversations started. Small at first, but real. Later that evening, something else happened. Officer Reed stopped by the neighborhood while driving home. He saw Linda and Marcus talking near the tree. He smiled to himself. He did not stop the car. He did not need to. The truth had already done its work. The shocking truth was not about crime. It was not about police. It was about something deeper. It was about how quickly fear can grow, and how slowly trust must be built. That night, Marcus felt lighter, not because the past disappeared, but because the future felt different. Linda, too, felt something change inside her. She realized something important. Safety does not come from suspicion. It comes from connection. Before going to sleep, she wrote a small note. "Welcome to the neighborhood." The next morning, she placed it gently in Marcus's mailbox. Sometimes the most powerful truth is simple. We fear what we do not know, but when we take time to know it, fear loses its power. And on that quiet street, a new chapter was beginning, not built on assumption, but built on understanding. The next few days felt different in the neighborhood. Nothing looked changed on the outside. The same houses stood quietly. The same trees moved gently in the wind. The same people walked their dogs in the evening. But inside, something was not the same. Marcus could feel it. When he stepped outside to check his mailbox, conversations stopped. When he drove down the street, curtains moved slightly. People were watching. He tried to ignore it. He reminded himself that people sometimes fear what they do not understand. One afternoon, Marcus decided to fix the small fence in his backyard. He worked slowly and carefully. Ava sat nearby, drawing pictures with colored pencils. "Daddy?" Ava asked softly. "Why were the police here the other day?" Marcus paused. He did not want to fill her heart with sadness. "They were just making sure everything was safe," he said gently. "Sometimes people make mistakes." Ava nodded. She trusted him completely, but Marcus felt the weight of that moment. He knew it was more than a simple mistake. Across the street, Linda was speaking to her friend Carol. "I was only trying to protect the neighborhood," Linda said quietly. Carol looked at her. "Did you talk to him first?" Linda stayed silent. The truth was simple. She had not. She had seen a man she did not recognize. She had seen tools in his hands. Her mind created a story without asking questions. And that story felt real to her. Fear can be powerful, can make small things look dangerous, can turn strangers into threats. Later that evening, something unexpected happened. A loud crash came from the street. A teenage boy on a bicycle had hit a parked car and fallen hard onto the pavement. People rushed outside. The boy was bleeding from his forehead. He looked scared and in pain. Everyone stood around him, unsure what to do. Then Marcus ran forward without thinking. "I'm a nurse," he said quickly. He knelt beside the boy and checked his breathing. He spoke calmly and clearly. "It's okay," Marcus told him. "You're going to be fine." He took clean cloth from his house and pressed it gently against the wound to stop the bleeding. The boy's mother arrived, crying and shaking. Marcus stayed with them until the ambulance came. He did not look at the neighbors watching him. He did not try to prove anything. He simply helped. Linda stood on her porch again. This time she saw something different. She saw the same man she had feared holding a scared child's hand. She saw patience in his face. She saw care. When the ambulance left, the boy's mother hugged Marcus tightly. "Thank you," she said with tears in her eyes. The neighbors began whispering again. But this time the whispers were different. He knew exactly what to do. He stayed calm. He helped without hesitation. Linda felt her face grow warm. For the first time, she questioned her own thoughts deeply. Why had she assumed the worst? Why had she believed her fear without checking the truth? That night, Linda could not escape those questions. She sat in her living room, thinking about the moment she picked up the phone. She remembered how sure she felt. But now, she was not sure anymore. Marcus, meanwhile, sat outside under the tree in his backyard. Ava had gone to sleep. He looked up at the sky. He knew some neighbors still doubted him. But he also knew something important. Actions speak louder than fear. He could not control what others believed. He could only control who he was. The next morning, something small but meaningful happened. When Marcus stepped outside to go to work, one neighbor, Mr. Thompson, raised his hand. "Morning," he said. Marcus paused for a second. "Good morning," he replied. It was just one word, but it felt like progress. Later that day, Linda saw Marcus again. This time, she did not hide behind the curtain. She stepped outside. She did not speak yet. She only watched him wave goodbye to Ava before leaving for work. She saw love in that moment. Not danger, not threat, just love. And slowly, she began to understand something important. Fear is loud, but truth is quiet. Fear reacts quickly. Truth takes time. The question was no longer about a phone call. It was about something deeper. Was it really danger she saw that day? Or was it assumption? And that question would soon lead to a moment that none of them expected. Because sometimes the hardest thing is not facing others. It is facing yourself. Weeks passed, and the neighborhood felt warmer. People talked more. They smiled more. Small conversations began to grow into longer ones. The street no longer felt divided. But sometimes, even when things look peaceful, The past still speaks quietly inside people's hearts. One Saturday afternoon, the neighborhood planned a small block gathering. It was Mr. Thompson's idea. "Let's bring everyone together," he said. Food, music, simple fun. It was something the street had not done in years. Marcus was not sure if he should go. He did not want to feel out of place. But Ava was excited. "Please, Daddy," she said. "I want to meet everyone." So they went. Tables were set up in the middle of the street. Children ran around laughing. The smell of grilled food filled the air. Linda stood near the drink table, greeting people as they arrived. When she saw Marcus and Ava walking toward the gathering, she smiled and waved. That small wave meant something. Marcus waved back. As the afternoon continued, neighbors began sharing stories about how long they had lived there. Some spoke about raising children. Others talked about jobs and travels. Then someone asked Marcus, "So how did you become a nurse?" The group grew quiet. Marcus paused for a moment. He had never shared his story with them. But something inside him told him it was time. "My mother was sick when I was young," he began softly. "We did not have much money. She worked 2 jobs. One day she collapsed at work." He looked down for a second, remembering. At the hospital, one nurse stayed with her after his shift ended. He did not have to, but he did. He talked to her. He treated her with respect. Marcus looked back up. "That moment changed me. I wanted to be that kind of person for someone else." The neighbors listened carefully. Linda felt her throat tighten. She had never asked about his life before. She had never tried to understand his journey. Marcus continued. "Sometimes people only see what is in front of them. They do not see the story behind it." The words were simple, but they were deep. No one spoke for a few seconds. Then Linda stepped forward slowly. "I have something to say," she said quietly. All eyes turned to her. "I made a mistake when Marcus first moved here. I acted from fear, not from facts." The street was silent. "I did not take time to know him," she continued. "And that was wrong." Her voice shook slightly, but she did not stop. "But I am learning, and I am grateful for the second chance." Marcus looked at her. There was no anger left inside him, only understanding. "It takes courage to admit mistakes," he said calmly. A small clap began from Mr. Thompson. Then others joined. It was not loud applause. It was respectful. Healing does not always make noise. After that moment, something beautiful happened. Children from different houses began playing together more often. Neighbors started borrowing small things from each other again. Someone even suggested starting a monthly dinner night. The street that once felt divided now felt connected. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, Ava ran up to Marcus. "Daddy," she said happily, "this feels like home." Marcus looked around. He saw laughter. He saw conversation. He saw people who once stood apart now standing together. "Yes," he said softly, "it does." Across the street, Linda watched them. She realized something important. Fear had once controlled her, but understanding had set her free. That night, as Marcus sat under the tree again, he thought about everything that had happened. The police lights, the whispers, the tension, and now the peace. Life had given them all a lesson, not about crime, not about blame, but about the power of listening. The past had spoken. It had revealed mistakes. It had shown hidden fears, but it had also opened a door to growth, a door to change. And on that quiet street, something lasting had been built. Not just houses, not just fences, but trust. And trust, once built with honesty, is stronger than fear will ever be. 1 week passed after the bicycle accident. The neighborhood slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Cars came and went. Children played in the afternoons. Lights turned off one by one at night. But inside many homes, thoughts were still moving, especially inside Linda's. She could not forget the image of Marcus helping the injured boy, the calm in his voice, the kindness in his eyes. Something inside her felt uncomfortable. She wanted to fix what she had done, but pride is not easy to defeat. Meanwhile, Marcus focused on his work and on Ava. He installed the swing under the tree, just as he promised. Ava laughed loudly as she flew back and forth. But Marcus also knew something important. Even though things looked calmer, trust had not fully returned. Then one evening, something unexpected happened again. This time, the police cars came back. Red and blue lights flashed once more. The entire street froze. People stepped outside quickly, whispering, "Not again." What happened now? Marcus walked out of his house slowly. His heart beat faster. He had done nothing wrong. Still, the memory of the first night returned to him. Officer Daniel Reed stepped out of the car again. But this time, he was not looking at Marcus. He was looking at Linda's house. Two officers walked quickly toward her front door. Linda stepped outside, confused and nervous. "What is going on?" she asked. Officer Reed spoke calmly. "Ma'am, we received a report about suspicious activity near your garage." Linda's eyes widened. "My garage?" she repeated. "Yes," the officer said. "Someone reported a man trying to open your back gate earlier." The neighbors looked at each other. Irony filled the air. The same street, the same flashing lights, but a different house. Linda felt fear rise inside her chest. She had always believed she was protecting this neighborhood. Now she was the one feeling unsafe. Suddenly, from behind her house, a loud noise came. A shadow moved quickly near the fence. The officers ran toward the backyard. The neighbors held their breath. Marcus did not think twice. He followed, not because he was curious, but because he understood fear. He had felt it deeply. When they reached the back fence, they saw a young man trying to climb over. He looked nervous and desperate. "Stop!" one officer shouted. The young man froze. Within seconds, the officers caught him. Turned out he was not trying to break in. He was running from another street after stealing a bicycle. He had jumped into Linda's yard to hide. Linda stood shaking. Marcus stepped closer, but kept a respectful distance. "Are you okay?" he asked her quietly. She looked at him, the same man she once feared, now standing there, concerned for her safety. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm okay." Her voice was softer than ever before. Officer Reed walked back toward them. "The situation is under control," he said. "You are safe." The tension slowly faded, but something powerful remained. The entire neighborhood had just witnessed something important. Danger does not always look the way people expect, and safety does not always come from the person people assume. Linda looked around. She saw neighbors watching her the same way they once watched Marcus. She understood the feeling now. The fear, the embarrassment, the silence. After the police left, the street became quiet again. Linda stood still for a moment. Then she did something unexpected. She walked toward Marcus. Her steps were slow. Every neighbor watched. When she stopped in front of him, she took a deep breath. "I understand now," she said softly. Marcus waited. "When I saw you that day, I was afraid," she continued. "But tonight, I felt the same fear. And you were the first person to ask if I was okay." There was no anger in Marcus's face, only calm. "We all want to feel safe," he said. "But sometimes fear makes us see the wrong story." Linda nodded slowly. "I should have talked to you first," she admitted. The words were not loud, but they were honest. For the first time, the wall between them felt smaller. Around them, neighbors began to relax. Some even smiled. It was not a perfect ending, but it was a real moment, a moment of understanding. That night, as Marcus sat under the tree watching Ava sleep through the window, he felt something shift inside the neighborhood. The police lights had returned, but this time they did not bring division. They brought reflection. Sometimes life gives people a second chance, not to prove who they are, but to understand who others are. And on that quiet street, something important had changed forever. Because now the truth was not just revealed, it was felt.